He is a ballet legend who seems to defy the passage of time. At the age of 100.5, as he likes to say, Henry Danton is still teaching new generations of dancers.
Oh, that's marvellous. Who do I thank?
But the award he collected at the Royal Academy of Dance today was for a performance he gave when he was just starting his career.
That's wonderful. Look at it. I had to wait a long time for it.
The reason young Henry was denied the medal he won, it was 1942, there was a war on. So this is what he was told.
You will be awarded the medal when metal is available, because silver was being used for the war effort. There was none available.
So you've had to wait until now?
Yes, a long time.
A long time that Henry filled with a stage career that saw him perform with the world's leading ballerinas. He still teaches dancing in America, where he lives now, and puts his longevity down to becoming a vegetarian 50 years ago.
The time I did it, you know, you were a crank if you were a vegetarian at that time. There was a vegetarian restaurant here in London, the only one, and it was called Cranks, because they thought the vegetarians were cranks.
You're 100 years old now.
Yeah.
Can you see a time when you want to retire?
No, absolutely not.
I'd get bored, he says, so he'll be flying back to America to continue teaching with a new old medal to show his students.
My name is Henry Danton. I come originally from England, a long time ago. I was a dancer, and I'm now a teacher. New York at that time was really marvelous. I mean, it's completely different from what it is now. Much more calm and really nice. I don't know, just when I hear music, I want to move. I think that's the reason why people dance, is when they hear music, they want to move. I mean, I thoroughly believe in exercise. It's the best thing in the world, keep you healthy. My standard answer is, God dumped me down here and I'm waiting for him to dump me out. Well, I was born into a military family. My father was in the military and his father before him. And my father was killed at the end of the First World War. No, I was 3 months old when he... And my mother was left with 3 children on a very small pension. So I had an older brother, and we actually both got what was called a King's Cadetship, which meant that the government paid for our education. So the thing was that you had to go to military places, the preparatory school, the college, and the military academy. So that was when I was about 12, I think, 12 or 13. I said to my mother, "Well, you know, I don't want to be a soldier." So she said, "Well, you have to do it to get your education." So that was the deal, was that once I had my education, that I should be out. And when I got to be, well, it was in the, I was in the Royal Military Academy in Woolwich at that time. And I tried to get out, and it just happened to be at the time of the Munich crisis. And they weren't letting anyone out, so I was stuck in the army. It was a friend I had, and he sort of understood that I was not comfortable in my where I was, and took me to see the ballet, see what my impression was. One of the ballets was called Jardin Public, a Massing, I think it was, wasn't it? Okay. And what impressed me was that in that ballet there was like a statue, and the statue came to life, and I thought that was really got me. The statue moved around. I thought that was really wonderful, that how the body could move. But I had no idea anything that I would ever become a dancer.
Please.
Well, I loved ice skating, and I used to do a lot of that. And there was in the military academy, there was another cadet. He also liked ice skating. And he lived in Brighton, and in the summer break, he invited me to go to Brighton. We went to the skating rink together. And there was a little girl, you know, like these young, she was a skater. Her name was Valerie East. She sort of grabbed me. Phyllis East was her name. So I became friends with them. And they invited me to their house. And they had a house, it was in some outskirts of London. And they had a garden. The little girl was in the garden doing cabrioles and everything. And I said, oh, I wish I could do that. That's marvelous. So the mother said, well, why not? Why can't you do it? She was the one who took me. He took me literally by the nose and took me to Judith Espinosa. And that's how it all started. But I was very limber because of the skating. And also the gymnastics in the military academy were pretty pronounced. No, well, the thing was that I was so unhappy in the army. I mean, I really was a misfit completely. And I'd always never had an idea that I would be a dancer, but when I heard music, I always wanted to move. And it's funny because we had a gymnastics coach in the military academy, and they had an exhibition at the end of each year, and the parents came. You know, we had to run, jump over the horse, you know. And they had a band, the military band played, and they would play a Strauss waltz, and I flew. And this man, he said, "What do you think you are, a bloody ballet dancer?" I suppose when I first felt the joy of movement. Yeah. You had to be I was very lucky. I had a very good body to do it. A regular body would not be able to do it. You know, I should have started at the age of 8 and I was 21, so I had so many years to catch up. So I worked really hard. I mean, I just exaggerated like I do everything. First thing I learned was a plie. So I went home and I thought I did 64 plies, you know. And that was the way it was. I just went at it. The Allied Ballet was run by a couple who had been in the Basel Company. And when the war broke out, they were stranded in England. They were American. And her name was Mila Carter, and his name was Joseph Crandall. And they were stuck in England. At that time, it was so difficult, you couldn't get back home. So they started this company. And I got the job because Mila, the wife, came to take class with Judith Espinosa. And of course, there were no men around at that time at all. So they grabbed me immediately. And I'd had 18 months training at that time. So I got into their company and I put into Sylphied right away, into Sylphied. And another one called La Plus Belle. So I was in 3 ballets. And 18 months dancing behind me, and I didn't know what I was doing. I put on a costume, put on makeup, I had no idea. So anyway, it only lasted 2 weeks. We had 1 season, I think, in Hammersmith and Golders Green. And then the company folded. It happened that Mona was taking classes with Espinosa. And, as I say, there were no men around, so I was grabbed immediately. So I got immediately when the Allied Ballet closed, she got the job. Well, she was completely in Sergeyev's hands. She did everything that he told her. to the point that he said that the prima ballerina has no contact with the people in the company. So she was aloof from everyone simply because he told her to do so, not because of her own character. Well, they had fabulous costumes. I mean, the father, he was Imperial Chemical Industries. You knew that. So they were, I mean, the best that you could find at that, and the material was the most expensive. The costumes were fabulous. And Mrs. Ingleby was sort of a watchdog about the costumes. You were not allowed to sit down in a costume, you were not allowed to eat, and do nothing in the costume. Just stand up and take it off and put it on, that's all. But they were very good. And the productions were very good. I mean, they didn't spare any expenses at all. There was no uniformity in the dancers. You know, they came from schools all over the place. They all danced differently. But they had Idzikovsky was the ballet master, and Sergeyev was the regisseur. And I was a sponge. I mean, I went behind, they would work on the stage, I'd go behind, I'd learn everyone's step, I learned the peasant step, the Queen of the Willies, I learned everything. I just wanted to learn everything. Well, he was an unfortunate person, Haraldson. I mean, he disliked Mona. He thought that she should not have a company. It was only that she was only the ballerina in the company because her father had money. So he was as mean as he could be. When he was partnering, he would push her off balance. He would talk to her and say unfortunate things. So Mona thought that I had possibilities, and she took me as a partner. But I had no partnering experience at all, except a little bit in Esplanade School. So I had a rehearsal every morning after class with Idzikovsky on partnering. So there I was, again, having done Sylphide in the Arrowsmith Ballet. I was shoved into Sylphide with Mona. Immediately, ridiculous. And then they did a Carnival. And I had Idzikovsky and Evina, you know her. They were rehearsing that, and they were so mean to me because there was seven of the waltz novel, you do balancing. I didn't know the step, I didn't know how to do it. They were so mean to me, they reduced me to tears. But then it all changed when I became her partner, when he was coaching me. He turned around, so he helped. So the next thing that happened, and there was a real break with Haraldson, he actually pushed Mrs. Ingleby down the stairs. And so I got to do the second note Swan Lake with her. This was within like 3 months of joining the company. 18 months training, it was ridiculous, completely crazy. To start with, Mona was she was a big, not big, but a heavy, big bone. I had trouble lifting, you know, but I managed to lift her all right. But I felt that, you know, I was being pushed too hard, doing things that I couldn't do. So this went on for about 6 months. And after 6 months, I thought, well, by that time I got more into what was going on in England. And I thought, well, the Sadler's World is a better company. It's a bigger company. They have a better repertoire. And I thought, well, it would be good to make a change. So I somehow got an interview with Ninette de Valois. I asked her if I could join the company. She knew me already because I had done the Adeline Genet competition, and she was a judge, so she knew me already. So I went to see her, and she said, well, yeah, I'll take you, but you have to, because I had a 1-year contract with the International, and it had 6 months to run. Yeah. She said, I'll take you, but you have to get out of your contract. So I went back to talk to Mr. Ingleby, who was doing the businessman, and he said, no way, we won't let you out. So that was a big upset because I wanted to get out. And it changed, the atmosphere changed immediately. Idzikovsky was against me, Mona was, you know, I was a traitor already. So my mother got into the act. She came, I was upset, and she came, she talked to Mr. Ingleby, and the three of us we got together and nothing was happening, so they said, leave the room. Somehow, I don't know, she did. She got me out of it. We had a rehearsal, and it was a ballet called The Gods Go Begging. It was her ballet, wasn't it? And it was goddamn boring. I mean, I thought it was awful. Awful music, frightful, and a horrible thing. So I was shoved into that. And the one step I couldn't do. I couldn't do it. And so she kept nagging me and said, do it, do it. And finally, I stamped at her. I got so angry because she was trying to get me to do it to counts instead of the music. I wanted the music. So she said, that's right, boy. Stamp and maybe you'll get the step right. So I was a boy from that minute on. Boy. And she called me a boy for the entire time I was in the company, which I thought was insulting because I'd been in the army, I'd been a captain in the army with a whole battalion of guns under my control. I thought it was insulting. Well, you see, that was the thing. I mean, life was so horrible. You know, you don't know if you were going to be bombed during the night or gassed, or you didn't know what was going to happen. So ballet became a sort of escape for people. I mean, it really was. They would go into this magical world where it was fancy. They could forget the everyday life. That's why ballet became so popular, in my opinion, during the war. It was an escape. Well, yes, so after the liberation, the ENSA, they took us to, we went on twice. The first time we went to Brussels and then we went to Paris, yeah. So we went to Belgium, we danced in Brussels and then we went on after to Paris. No way to describe it. See, the thing was, it was such a mess, the company. I mean, everyone was, I mean, it was, I was so surprised when I got into the moral level of, you know, everyone had lovers, men and women were living with each other, changing partners. And I thought, and I'd never seen anything like that before. I was completely, could not understand it. She stood there and she watched everything, you know, but it was in her interest not to do anything. And I could never get over that. I mean, she would see the most awful things going on, and I thought she should have done something, but she didn't. But she had her favourites. I mean, Bobby was her favourite. And he could get away with anything. And, you know, she did nothing about Ashton and Soames, you know. I mean, she should have stopped. She should not have gone along with that. Because, I mean, Soames did exactly what he wanted with Ashton, and she didn't, you know, she needed Ashton, she needed Soames. So, I mean, I could not agree with her. Morally, I thought she was completely off. Well, it did, because the Opera House was still being renovated. And it was the first time it had been used during the whole war. It was a dance hall. And it was, they had productions of the classics, and they were sort of pretty poor, you know, the costume and scenery. This, they were really splurging on it. And it was to be the grand opening of the Opera House, which it was. Well, that production was the best of them all. I mean, the subsequent ones have been very inferior, I think, in my opinion. I mean, the costuming of the sets were beautiful. They were really very beautiful. I mean, what Dahl did with it, I mean, it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. You mustn't write that. Just.
You did Florestan in a lot of Sleeping Beauties, which suggests you must have been a capable dancer.
I could jump. I had a good jump. You know, How was gaining technique? Well, you see, what happened there, Volkova appeared in London.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a teacher like nobody had ever seen.
Right.
So I took classes with her, and I gained a lot of technique through her.
Mm-hmm.
You see, then there was she had the Valois again. See, because the company class was at 10 o'clock in the morning, taught by Peggy Van Prague, or by de Valois herself, or by, Joy Newton. And I'd worked with Idzikoffy, and Idzikoffy was a good teacher. I didn't like it because I don't like the Cecchetti system, but he was a good teacher. And I could not follow any of those teachers because I thought that was just bad. So I went to Volkova, and it was something none of us had ever seen. So I stopped going to the company class, and I was called to the office, and so she said, "Why are you not coming to the class?" So I said, "Well, I'm going to Volkova." And I swear this is the truth, but she said, "I will not have you going to a tuppenny halfpenny teacher around the corner." And as soon as she'd said that, she must have bit her tongue because she saw my reaction. She should not have said that. But she said, "I forbid you to go." So I went on going. So that was another point of controversy with her.